Keeping an eye on social media this morning, Donald Trump did tweet just a couple of moments ago, made no mention whatsoever of what happened in Charlottesville. He's being called to task, of course, for not calling white supremacists themselves to task. So rallies today here in Toronto, standing with those in Charlottesville. Tammy?
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. A rally will be held this morning outside of the U.S. consulate, protesting the deadly white supremacist rally in Virginia.
Solidarity! Solidarity!
About 50 people gathered outside the consulate near University and Dundas last night, singing songs speaking out against the weekend's violence in Charlottesville. In just over an hour from now, another crowd will gather outside of the consulate for a peaceful demonstration. It's being organized by 2 Toronto history professors, according to a Facebook group. At least 130 people are expected to attend. The event page says the protest is to oppose violent right-wing bigotry in the U.S. and support victims and survivors of the recent violence in Charlottesville. Several other similar protests were held around the United States.
No fascist USA!
Hundreds of demonstrators rallied outside the Trump Tower in Chicago. Other massive protests were held in California, New York, Boston, and San Francisco. They denounced the violence in Virginia, where 1 woman died and 20 others were injured when a man drove a car into a crowd of counter-protesters demonstrating against a white supremacy rally. The organizer of Saturday's rally, Jason Kessler, tried to hold a news conference yesterday in Virginia, but he was shouted down.
You know we have a security plan. You know on Friday,
As he tried to run away, he was actually tackled by someone in the crowd. The mayor of Charlottesville is criticizing President Trump for not speaking out more vocally against the white supremacists.
Well, look at the campaign he ran. I mean, look at the intentional courting, both on the one hand of all these white supremacists, white nationalists, group like that. There's 2 words that need to be said over and over again: domestic terrorism and white supremacy. That is exactly what we saw on display this weekend.
20-year-old James Alex Fields has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of 22-year-old Heather Heyer. He was the one seen driving his car into protesters demonstrating against the white supremacists. Fields' former teacher says his student held extremist values.
On race, he was very infatuated with the Nazis, with Adolf Hitler. He also had a huge military history, especially with like German military history in World War II. But he was pretty infatuated with that stuff. You know, his freshman year, he had an issue with that was raised, and from there on, you know, we knew that, you know, he had these issues.
Fields was also a former member of the U.S. military in 2015. He will appear in court by video today. And as you heard Kevin mention, Donald Trump tweeting just moments ago, but not acknowledging the fresh criticism he's facing this morning. He tweeted, heading to Washington this morning, much work to do, focus on trade and military, hashtag make America great again. In other news, here at home, we are watching flights at Pearson closely this morning after dozens of cancellations over the weekend. We have a live look here at the arrivals level at Terminal 3. On Saturday, about 80 flights due to arrive at Pearson were canceled. NAV Canada was blaming weather as well as reduced staffing levels at Pearson's control tower. There were fewer delays yesterday with improved weather, and so far today, the levels of cancellations are at normal levels. Also, a reminder that 700 unionized ground crew workers employed by Swissport Canada, they're still on strike, and that could cause delays as well. They service more than 30 airlines. Well, good times had by all at this year's Taste of the Danforth. Crowds of people flocking to the street for some delicious food. Cleanup continuing this morning, though, as barriers were taken down and the Danforth was reopened to traffic. The street was shut down on Friday for the 24th annual Greek festival. Over 1.5 million people were expected to take in the flavorful feasts and, of course, commemorate Canada's 150th birthday. The Taste of the Danforth is Canada's largest street festival.
The verse and the hook is something that one of my friends wrote. Shout out to Raph.
The Waterfront Night Market ran this weekend as well. It featured over 100 food vendors with a focus on Pan-Asian cuisine and expanded midway. The festival was supposed to be Canada's first indoor and outdoor night market until last week, when Toronto Fire deemed the Hearn generating station unsafe for public use. Around 120,000 people were expected to visit that night market this weekend.